When people ask, who was more corrupt, Biden or Trump? The honest answer depends on what standard you use and how carefully you separate proven facts from political storytelling. Based on publicly documented evidence through July 2026, the stronger judgment is that Donald Trump is personally and institutionally more heavily burdened by corruption-related evidence than Joe Biden. That is a ranked judgment, not total proof of every accusation made against either man. The best way to do this is with an evidence matrix. Start with what is proven in court or official records, then move to strong documented conflicts of interest, then politically disputed interpretations, and finally, unsupported claims. Across both men, 5 categories matter most: personal legal wrongdoing, personal enrichment, family business, use of office, and transparency. One more rule is crucial. Court rulings, financial disclosures, and investigative records count more than commentary. Partisan committee reports can contain real records, but they often sharpen the conclusion. Rebuttals can correct real errors, but they may also be defensive. Again and again in these stories, authentic data were stretched beyond what they actually proved. And we also need to separate criminal corruption from broader ethics. Criminal corruption usually requires a benefit, an official duty, intent, and some kind of quid pro quo. Ethics reaches earlier than that. Conflicts of interest, nepotism, influence peddling, and even legally valid but abusive-looking pardons can be deeply troubling without proving a crime. Start with the Biden side, because that is where a lot of people jump too quickly from ugly facts to larger conclusions that were not actually established. Hunter Biden did commit proven crimes. In June 2024, a Delaware jury convicted him on 3 federal gun counts. In September 2024, he pleaded guilty in the California tax case involving large income, unpaid taxes, and false tax filings. Those are not rumors or partisan spin. They are proven or admitted criminal acts by Hunter Biden. Then came one of the worst optics moments of Joe Biden's presidency. On December 1, 2024, Joe Biden issued an unusually broad federal pardon covering Hunter's prosecuted crimes and potential federal offenses from early 2014 to early December 2024. That was a legal use of presidential power. But legally valid does not mean ethically clean. It was a major credibility break and created a strong impression of nepotism. There is also solid reason to say Hunter Biden monetized the family name. From 2014 onward, he held a Burisma board role and had other foreign-linked business ties. Emails, witness statements, and bank records indicate that the Biden name had market value. In plain terms, Hunter appears to have sold access, prestige, or at least the image of access. That is ethically troubling, even if it falls short of proving Joe Biden himself committed bribery. And Joe Biden was not as distant from this world as his broadest public denials suggested. Republican investigators documented dinners, brief meetings, calls, and Devon Archer's account of Hunter putting Joe on speakerphone, often for pleasantries. That matters because it undercuts Joe Biden's sweeping public denial that he discussed Hunter's foreign business at all. But this is where the evidence hits a real limit. Investigations did not produce solid proof of an official act by Joe Biden exchanged for a specific payment. There is no court-confirmed bribe to Joe Biden in the public record. Alleged repayment flows and money trails were disputed, and the key missing pieces were proven recipient knowledge, proven purpose, and a proven office-linked action. The famous big guy evidence shows the problem clearly. One email about a proposed Chinese deal mentioned a possible share for the big guy, and a former partner identified that phrase as Joe Biden. That sounds explosive. But the arrangement was not carried out in that form, and the email by itself does not prove payment, much less a quid pro quo. The Ukraine and Burisma allegation is similar. Joe Biden pushed for the removal of Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin while Hunter was on the Burisma board. On the surface, that looks suspicious. But the counter-evidence is substantial. The European Union, the IMF, Western governments, and Ukrainian reform groups also wanted Shokin removed. It was official U.S. policy, not some private side mission invented for Hunter. Publicly available evidence still does not solidly show that policy changed in order to protect Hunter or Burisma. Even the laptop story needs careful handling. It was not wholly fabricated. Investigators used it in the gun case, and many emails were forensically confirmed. At the same time, publicly circulated copies had a messy chain of custody, so not every file, screenshot, or online claim should be treated as equally authenticated. That matters because some of the most sensational Biden claims simply did not hold up. There is no solid public confirmation that laptop material proves Hunter had sexual contact with minors. And Alexander Smirnov's bribery claims against Joe and Hunter Biden collapsed after special counsel David Weiss charged him with false statements and Smirnov pleaded guilty in late 2024. So the Biden side conclusion is fairly clear. Proven. Hunter Biden committed crimes. He monetized the family name. Joe Biden had more contact with that world than he publicly admitted. And the broad pardon is a serious ethical burden. Not proven. That Joe Biden personally took a bribe in exchange for a specific official favor. Now compare that with Trump. On personal legal wrongdoing alone, Trump carries a heavier documented burden. In May 2024, a New York jury convicted him on 34 counts of falsifying business records tied to hush money reimbursements. Appeals were still unresolved as of summer 2026, but the procedural fact remains that these are criminal convictions unless and until overturned. There is also the New York civil fraud case, which found repeated misstatements of asset values. Appeals reduced or rejected parts of the financial penalty, but major findings and remedies remained. That is not a criminal corruption conviction, but it is still a formal judicial finding of serious financial misconduct. Then there are the unresolved federal cases over classified documents and the 2020 election. These were not finally decided on the merits in court by July 2026. That means they cannot be honestly counted as proven corruption. But it also does not mean acquittal. They stay in the unresolved category, not the exonerated one. Where Trump really separates himself is in structural conflict of interest. During both presidencies, he retained ownership interests that allowed spending at his companies by people and entities seeking favor from the U.S. government. That is exactly the kind of arrangement ethics rules are designed to avoid, because it blurs public office and private gain even when proving a direct quid pro quo is difficult. A Democratic staff report found at least $7.8 million from 20 foreign governments or state-linked actors to 4 Trump companies in a limited period. That figure came from a partisan source, so it deserves source criticism. But the underlying records still point to a real pattern. Foreign-linked money flowing into businesses owned by a sitting president. Even if one disputes the framing, the structural conflict is obvious. Then the picture deepened in Trump's second term. Family crypto ventures and a 2026 disclosure showing more than $1.4 billion in income added another layer of opacity while the administration influenced the sector. That does not automatically prove criminal corruption, but it massively expands the scale of documented enrichment concerns and the overlap between governing power and family-linked business opportunity. And this is the key comparative point. With Biden, the strongest public case is about a son who traded on the family name, a father who was closer to it than he admitted, and a pardon that looks like nepotism. With Trump, the burden includes criminal convictions, major civil findings, ongoing ownership conflicts, documented foreign-linked payments to his companies, and vast later income tied to business sectors affected by his administration. That does not mean every accusation against Trump is proven. It does not mean every Biden defense is persuasive. It means the documented burden is heavier on Trump. If your question is, who has the cleaner record if we limit ourselves to publicly supported evidence? The answer is Joe Biden, though not by a comfortable moral margin. If your question is, who is surrounded by more proven wrongdoing, stronger conflict evidence, and larger-scale institutional self-enrichment concerns? The answer is Donald Trump. So the neutral fact check lands here. Hunter Biden's crimes are real. Joe Biden's pardon was legal, but ethically damaging. Claims that Joe Biden personally took a proven bribe for a specific official act remain unproven. Trump, by contrast, faces a denser stack of court-tested wrongdoing, conflict of interest evidence, foreign-linked payments, and opaque enrichment. On the evidence available through July 2026, Trump is more heavily burdened by corruption-related evidence than Biden. Subscribe, enable notifications, and tell us in the comments what topic we should fact-check next.